Hey, welcome to the Nagual zone, and I'm here again. I received a fantastic question to my last video, which was called What is Impeccability? If you haven't watched it yet, go over and watch it, because then what I'm about to say now will make sense. So here's the question that a viewer asked. They said, "Thank you, Anaam. I wonder when the discipline ends, the discipline of pursuing the life of a warrior, and when being a petty tyrant with ourselves starts." Great question, very penetrative. It indicates a mind that is interested in really understanding how it all works. And how should we accommodate the impeccability and the need for distraction, which is, the need for just relaxing and entertaining oneself without being self-violent. Thank you. So I'll read that again. Thank you, Anaam. I wonder when the discipline ends and when being a petty tyrant with ourselves starts. How should we accommodate the impeccability and the need for distraction without being self-violent? So here's my advice to whoever's asking this question, if you resonate with this question. First of all, let me qualify that with a quote that Bruce Lee said one time. When someone asked him, "Don't you think you train too much?" And Bruce Lee said, "I would rather be overtrained than undertrained." Right? So just keep that in mind for now as I build my answer for you guys. So there's that. I'd rather be overtrained than undertrained. Secondly, I'll give you my own example. I've been associated with the fitness part of life, well-being and fitness part of life for as far as I can remember, well before, actually around the time when my own training started, to be quite honest. I never clocked that, My benefactors have been very clever, and to this day I realized things and patterns in their teaching that I go, wow, I never realized how that fit with that and that and that. Only now do I realize that. So over the years, there have been times, now it doesn't happen anymore, but before, for many, many, many years, there was times when I would be like, oh, the last thing I want to do is work out today. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not talking about gyms. Stay away from gyms. They will kill your joints and your tendons, literally, just like hospitals will kill you, gyms will kill you. You're better than that. If you want a hint, go calisthenics. Just as a starter, hint. Okay, so I would say to myself, there's nothing in me that wants to work out. Nothing in me today that wants to put in that effort. And please, I'm just going to take a break and play video games instead. And I would never know whether I'm just being lazy or does my body actually want rest. It was just impossible for me to determine that, especially given my own mindset, which is I'm going to give the best I have to every moment, which is what that video was all about, which sparked this question, right? So it took me a lot of trial and error, guys. A lot of 1 step up, 2 steps back, 3 steps up, 1 step back. A lot of combinations of forward movement and then relaxing and forward movement. And then someone else I highly respect called Matt Fury, Mattfury, Matt Fury. Google that name. I stand by whatever this guy says. He's been one of my sort of remote mentors for a very long time. I am part of his Facebook group and all these things. So go check him out. His marketing's a bit sort of on the cheesy side, but his material is very, very good. Anyway, Matt Fury, I've been on his email list for like 20 odd years now. And once I remember he said, you know, relaxing is just as important as training. And over the years, you know, you gotta move away from being someone who analyzes from your machine mind. Everything has to go through the inventory of your analysis, which is basically comparing words. The inventory of words, ideas, concepts, beliefs, personal religions, sifting through all of that and coming out with either a tick or a cross, right? Yes, that is okay. That is not okay. But what I want, what the warrior does, my wish for you is to look at these teachings from your sensing body. So instead of your analytical mind, try and develop your sensing body. Now, the chances are that your sensing body is totally asleep. It's never had the chance to wake up. You haven't been educated in that. When you were between your formative years from 5 years old to 20 years old, you were relentlessly indoctrinated with the ability to analyze everything with your mind. It's called schooling. There's nothing educational about schools. They are purely indoctrination camps. Absolutely nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. So remember where your training really has been. It has been relentlessly. You have been brainwashed and indoctrinated to process the world around you, any new idea, anything that comes at you with your mind, with your analytical mind, which is basically an inventory of words, ideas, and concepts, beliefs, religions. That's it. That's all it is, right? Now, the warrior, why it is so difficult for the Toltec, people find it so difficult because you will find hundreds and hundreds of people analyzing the Toltec path and building sandcastles in their head. Very, very few, fortunate enough to get the correct kind of training, understand and apply and have a well-developed body that senses like an animal, senses its environment and behaves accordingly. It's the same. A warrior is a real animal, feral animal, uncontrollable, unmanipulatable, because the warrior moves with their inner current. And that, for me, took years of trial and error. Am I being a petty tyrant to myself? Or am I allowed to go to the movies right now? Am I allowed? Now, fortunately, here's a little pro tip for you guys. You don't switch off your training, okay? You don't get to switch off your training when you're asleep. You don't get to switch off your training when you're watching a movie, when you're playing your video games or playing sports or whatever, reading comics. Video games and comics are my greatest pleasures and joys. Or whatever it is that you do for your personal entertainment, you don't get to switch off from your Toltec training. However, what I learned to do, what I was taught to do, is to work with the entertainment, at the same time still training myself. So I read the comic, I read 1 or 2 pages, and then I pause and I engage my body sensing with total inner silence. I sense my surroundings like an animal, like a squirrel. They will dig around a little bit and then they'll look up. They'll engage their body sense, they will twitch their ears, and then they'll go back to digging in the ground for their nuts, right? Or cats or animals, right? So you do the same in your life. Whatever you're doing, you're watching a movie, put a timer on for 20 minutes, half an hour, because you're like this when you're watching a movie, right? Hopefully it's an interesting movie and it's really grabbed you. What I do is when I'm playing video games, when I'm watching movies, whatever I'm doing, I'm very big on mind power. our mind cannot be allowed to run feral. Our thoughts must be directed. So I'm constantly playing affirmations of my liking. Affirmations. Constantly, they're constantly running so that my mind is being educated in the right way, what it should have been between the ages of 5 and 20 years old. So I never waste even one moment, guys. But if you don't make a religion out of your training, if you treat it lightly, buoyantly, lightheartedly, don't make a religion out of it, then it won't feel like a big burden. Don't get attached to results again. That will cause you misery. So just focus on your training and try and incorporate it lightly but sincerely in every facet of your life, especially inner silence. Whatever you're doing, put yourself on a timer, 20 minutes of watching movie, then 10 seconds of pure inner silence. Just sensing. Nice deep breath, back to watching the movie. 20 more minutes. Boom, inner silence. You're gonna have to be different from the average man. Just believe that. You're gonna have to behave differently, think differently, and literally live out your life in an extremely different manner than other people, right? So I'll leave that with you, and I hope that answered a little bit of, and even then it'll be trial and error. The answer to that question, each person will arrive at their own answer in their own time and pace, but I can guarantee you this, through much trial and error, because that is the way we get to know ourselves. This question is basically asking, how do I know my predilections intimately? That's what this question is asking. Because when you know your own predilections intimately, you can work with them. If you don't know your predilections intimately, how will you work with yourself? You're just constantly guessing. Trial and error will ultimately familiarize you with your own predilections. Then you can move forward from there. You understand what I'm saying? So trial and error is very, very important part of any learning process. And as someone really great once said, all knowledge is self-knowledge. Okay? So keep this in mind, and move forward with a light heart and a buoyant spirit, and appreciate your beautiful journey. And don't be afraid of trial and error, because it's moving you towards knowing yourself better, knowing your predilections better. And the more you know yourself, the easier it will become to navigate your learning curves. Hope that makes sense, guys, and I shall see you soon in the next video. Comment below on this. Give me something to work with. Let's communicate. Comment below. Tell me your thoughts. And hit like, subscribe. Tell your friends who may be interested in these things that there is a channel here that is aiming, hopefully, to educate in the proper way. And I shall see you in the next video. And I'm out.